Hey everybody, this is Al from El Rey Collection, and I'm here today to talk about the epic cardboard of none other than Ralph Dixie Dean, what we call here the Babe Ruth of soccer. Why the Babe Ruth? Well, Babe Ruth is a famous baseball player here in the United States, probably the greatest of all time. And his home run record for a season was stuck at 60 home runs until Barry Bonds kind of won that in perhaps aided fashion. He surpassed Babe Ruth, but no one has surpassed Dixie Dean in what he did in the 1927-28 season, I believe, with Everton, where he scored 60 goals. So he still has, to this day, the record of the amount of goals in a season. And it's a record that he was asked once if he expected the record to be broken. He said it can certainly be broken by someone who can walk on water. So it's definitely not a record that he expected to be broken, and indeed it has not, and he continues to be an epic legend of Everton. He actually has a nice statue outside of the field that Everton plays at, that has been there since he soon after his retirement, from what I recall, and they've played there since the 1800s. So lots of history. Amazing player. He won a number of things with Everton. They won, FA Cup, I think, in 1933. He led the league in scoring, a number of seasons, and in total ended up with more than 350 goals, I think, out of 400 appearances with Everton. He played for a couple other teams as well, but he's mostly known as an Evertonian. And so, when it comes to, he was just crazy superstar in his time and continues to be reveled as one of the greatest center forwards, pre-war center forwards that ever existed. He was inducted to the English Hall of Fame in 2002, I think. And he was, the first player to wear number 9 for Everton. So, we're here. I mean, you can read a lot about him. There's stories, there's articles, there's books. It's just, I'm here mostly to talk about his epic cardboard, and that all starts, as it usually does, with his rookie card. So this is the 1925 DC Thompson, and you can see this is a photographic card, and specifically it says with compliments of the editor. I'll see if you can see this a little bit right here. He's talking. They're saying on the back that he was 18. This card is just absolutely one of my favorites. It's on a lot of people's grail list. When I first got into the hobby about 12 years ago, people told me this is an easy card. Not true. I have not been able to find this in very many places. It remains elusive, elite, and really one of my favorite cards in the entire hobby. It's just beautiful. You see him young. The back is great. So that's his rookie card. I think that's definitely one to get. Since that one's kind of hard, though, you can kind of run and find this DC Thompson, which is sometimes called a rover because of the back. And you're going to notice, especially when we get into the 30s, PSA and SGC label these things differently. There's a lot of variations in some of the sets as well, and then some sets use the same photo but are actually different cards. So here is a DC Thompson, and you see down here this rover. This is why this card sometimes considered or called the rover. Again, not correct cataloging, but you can understand why. This one, the Patriau, I don't know really how to say that in French, is got some of the most beautiful colors that you'll ever see on a card, and is very similar to the photography used on the rover, and to a lesser extent the DC Thompson. So which by the way it can also be called. I think they call it Adventure. You'll hear some people call this Adventure and Vanguard. The rookie card, again this one. So they'll call this Adventure and Vanguard. The correct name is DC Thompson, as they're the editor here. Again, you can see this, beautiful backs on these. And a lot of the British cards from the 20s and 30s just have these really nice, really nice backs. One of probably my second favorite early card that isn't a character is this one, the Roshan Inco. And this one, again, just like the other ones, sometimes is known on the back for the Rising Sun. The Rising Sun Dixie Dean, but it's actually Roshenko, as you see the editor. It's a smaller card. I find this one kind of hard to find. And people that have them know that these are very scarce, and they usually drive a significant premium over some of his other early cards. So I'd probably say this is the second most valuable Dixie Dean from my experience. But if you like caricatures, this one is very rare, as are most of these early 28 to 30 Barrett cards. They all have interesting backs, simple but also interesting. They say different things. So this particular one says, Terra Brand Rock is the best. So but you'll be able to find these with a variety of backs. I don't know. I personally love this one. If you're into character cards like the Montes of the 1960s or the some of the Argentine issues, I mean this one is one of my favorites. It's not the only one. There's also like what I'll call pseudo characters like this where his head superimposed, and this is another Barrett, right? And this one now says Barrett sweets are pure. Nice to know. I'm glad that they're not unpure, back then in the 1920s. If you, for a more pure caricature, you can look at this John Player and Sons. And these actually aren't, completely crazy in terms of price, given how early they are. Again, almost all of these, and you guys will know if they have blank backs. I tend not to show them. But these early Dixie Deans, actually, most of these have fantastic backs. So, and after this, and this is from his big season, right? And this is right after it, 1930. I think Everton gets relegated to the second division in 1930, and then I think they come right back and win the league, get promoted, and then I think they win the league in the FA Cup the following year. So that's also kind of epic and adds to the lore. And he didn't leave when they got relegated, which I think is pretty cool. It shows commitment to his team. So this one's sometimes called In the Public Eye. So the technical way of these guys, grading these cards, like this one they'll call the Milhoff and Co., is because that's the publisher down here. But colloquial collectors sometimes will use what it's actually called on the top, In the Public Eye. So you're gonna have to, if you see any cards you like, you want to put them on your want list. Just be cognizant of that. There are a few team cards as well of Everton, and usually he's front and center in the middle. So those are kind of fun. I mean, again, not overly valuable, fantastic for those on a budget. Look at this, how nice this back is. This art on the back, photo cards, Art Off Tobacco and Company. Love it. Just these are amazing. And again, with Dixie Dean, you get lots of choices on characters, drawing, nice art, as opposed to photographic or made from photograph cards. Here's another John Player and Sons. This one's from 1929, very similar to the 28 version. There's a nuance on the back there. You'll also see a couple like small pogs, flags. I mean, at this point, this guy's an absolute legend. I mean, he scored 60 goals. So he's like, like the Babe Ruth, right? Everyone wants to see him. He's a superstar, rock star. And these have blank backs. So, again, I don't see those out there that much. And this one, there are, and I kicked myself because I didn't kind of get a run of these when I had an opportunity. So these are Godfrey Phillips, and there's like 3 or 4 different versions of these, and they're all kind of hand cut, and I kind of shied away from them because the kid who cut ones that I saw, the different variations, blank back. Yeah, I didn't love the way they were cut, but these used to be quite inexpensive. I think they're just getting so hard to find now. But anyway, be aware that there's different versions of this card, and I forget the actual nuances, but just be aware that those are out there. Here's a tiny little photographic card, and a couple reasons why I like this one is you notice his part. I mean, his hair is super parted right there. It's pretty cool. Love it. Photographic, blank back. This is the tubercular. In 1933, Barrett, which another name that we know here, you get a closer view of this haircut we're talking about, and now we're using William Ralph, which I think is his real name, a WR. So you'll see that instead of Dixie. I think there's still not 100% agreement on why his name was Dixie. I think some people said it was because of song when he was a kid. But anyway, this one is W.R. Dean. So very formal Barrett has to be in this particular one. And then you start to get, this is where I'll start to show you some of these, 1930s. And these 1930 cards, not just for Dixie Dean, but also Stanley Matthews, Cliff Baston, Ted Drake, some of these earlier stars, you'll get them all through the 1930s, and you can pick the sets up. Sometimes if you're searching for the specific player, there'll be a lot of demand on one player, but you can actually, if you search for the set, both ways I was telling you, both from the technical name and then the colloquial name, sometimes you can buy a set for less than what just the Dean itself would cost, or the Matthews. So a little tip out there if you guys want to try to find some of these really great 1930s cards. There are a lot of them relative to some other countries, so I wouldn't reach really far, but these are really nice cards. And so here's one. Here's a Gallagher, and now take close attention to the back here. It says champions right on it, and then so keep looking at this while I get this other one. So here you have this, and then here's the next card. It looks like the same card though, right? But look, this one is a slightly different perspective than this one. This one's a little bit closer up, and this is where the PSA is going to call him WR here. And then on the back, it looks nearly the same. So this is different versions, and they'll, basically, SGC is going to call it Dixie Dean. PSA is going to call it WR Dean. They have slightly different perspectives on the cards, but I just think it's cool, and you'll notice a lot of these have this situation going on. Here's just another one, Footballers in Action. This is pretty rare to see in action cards in the 30s of actual photos. This one's in actually really great shape too. Football in Action. Again, the SGC up here uses this as the brand. As the subset of the Patrio, the same guys with the beautiful 1928 Dixie Dean. This one is one that you'll see out there. Some people will call it Gold Flake, and others are going to call it, I forget what was it. It wasn't Honeydew. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank on it. But they use a different moniker for it. But this is, I'd say, pretty uncommon. You see them pop up every now and then, but this one, I even though it's black and white, I tend to like the photograph a lot on it, and it's just, I don't know, it just says something to me. You guys may or may not know that Ilsa Sweets is a Czech set from 1934 or 35, depending on who you ask, and it has many different sports stars in it, hockey. But of the soccer players, there's a Sindelar, and there's a Dixie Dean, and a few other players, especially Eastern European players, which is pretty cool because they don't typically show up in sets. The Dean, just goes to show how important he is. He's being talked about in sets from Czechoslovakia. He's going to be in sets, as you'll see later, from Malta, from Africa. He's just a global superstar at this point. beyond just a footballer. And you'll see he'll start to show up in a bunch of different sets that aren't even necessarily about the best footballers. So the Ilsa Suites is super tough and is very plain, simple back. But again, I like it. Dixie Dean is really one of my favorite players to collect. Here's the Circe cigarettes. This comes from Malta. Super tough, very small population from 1935. Really hard cards to get, especially in good condition. I felt this was one of the best cards in my collection for a long, long time. This 7. And just look at the nice art on the back. Oh, love it. So, and then these are much more common. Again, the UK ones, these 1935 Carreras, and they have the similar ones for Stanley Matthews, Ted Drake, all these guys, Cliff Baston. So this is from the famous footballers, and this is where he's drawn. Okay, so up here you can see famous footballers, Carreras, and this is where he's drawn. But he also shows up in a photo version of the same thing, Carreras, right? So again, famous footballers, Carreras, right? And then we have other Carreras where this one, he's got a purple shirt in small letters. So all these unique kind of variations that are really fun to collect. At least to me they are. Hopefully, and that's the famous footballers one. This one's also a famous footballers one with a blue shirt and large letters. So there's just lots of fun variations, and I personally like to pick them up all. You don't have to pick up the ones that you like or that you find. This John Sinclair's relatively common out there, but still, it's a very cool action shot. Like it, and this is from the English and Scottish footballer set. Here's another run where we're going to talk about soccer stars from Godfrey Phillips. Again, a lot of the same producers over and over, right? And so there's soccer stars. Really nice Godfrey. Amazing backs. But just remember this front here. And look at this other front now coming on. Same card, right? Kind of. Same front, same picture, not same card. Now we're looking at international caps with this nice little ball down here. Whereas the other one came from same picture, but because such a superstar, he's showing up in many different sets. He's in soccer stars with the Godfrey Phillips and the little star. Nuances, perhaps. If you're a Dixie Dean collector, I love this stuff. So much fun. Then we have this other one, which comes from the famous footballer set. So he's in 3 different cards from the same year by Godfrey Phillips. It feels kind of like a Panini, 2019 Zion. He's got so many different variations. He's in so many different sets. No, obviously I'm joking. He's got 3. That's a big deal back then. So here's United Services. It's another pretty good condition one. And again, 1930s UK cards are going to be about as good condition as you can get from vintage. They took care of things. It was a collecting mindset. They save things pretty well. So you're gonna find these in typically 3s to 6s. To find a 7 and 8, those are kind of rare until you get to the 50s. But most of them are going to be 3s to 7s, and that's really, if you buy raw, you're probably going to be getting a 3 to a 5. 7s, I guess, probably pushing it a bit, but they're definitely out there. Look at this one's a 6.5. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to keep going on because I got a lot of Dixie Dean cards. Maybe if you guys are bored, then you're just gonna have to bear with me. Fast forward to see one you like, because I still do have some really interesting ones I want to talk about, but I'm trying to keep them in order, chronological order, as we run here. Okay, so those are different ones. So here's Godfrey. Here's another Godfrey Phillips. Again, you can get these raw. Look, check out this back with the horse racing ad. So cool. Anyway, you can get these pretty much every Dixie Dean from the 1930s ungraded. I would expect to pay less than $100 still. These Koenigs have really come on strong, lately, and I think they should. One of the most beautiful sets ever made of any sport, in my opinion. This particular one has the Nil Princess Ramona, which is one of the more common backs. Same card. There's actually 13 or so different backs, lots of nuances, but with the Koenigs, I kind of stick to four main variations: Ramona, Nil Princess Ramona, 08, and there's a nuance of the 08, which I'll talk to in a minute, and solo. So here's the 08, and then on sometimes they have the 08 and tobacco on one line. That's a slight nuance, and that's even more scarce than the 08. And then the solo. Here's the Dixie Dean, and here's solo. So you start to see some of these back variations. Absolutely favorite cards. Those cards are just so beautiful. You've got in the international stars section, there's tons of really relevant players. Sarosi, Peroteo, oh my god, why am I Hoffman, Sespan, gosh, so many amazing players. Sindelar, gosh. So here's Africa. Not a lot of stuff was printed or made its way out of Africa. And so in 1939, African Tobacco had a World of Sport set, and it has many different players from many different sports. Of course, at the time, few bigger stars than Dixie Dean. And so he makes the set for football, soccer, and he has two cards. One, this small version, and then this one is a large version. These are really, really tough to find, in my experience. Maybe if you live in Africa, you would actually be able to find them. But here you see African tobacco manufacturers. Super cool. Gosh, love these. Sorry, I got distracted looking at my own cards here. And then later on in his career, he had here's another fun character that I just like picking up. Pretty rare, from Cleverton Confectionery. It's hard to see like this, so I'll just put it like this. So that's kind of a wrap on the Dixie Dean cards. I think that there are probably some others. I don't profess to have a complete run, but I think that he's an absolute pre-war superstar. If you're into pre-war cards, if you're into Everton, if you're into UK stars, if you're into following records that may never be broken, he's your guy. And he's a bit of a character, so there's plenty to read on him. He is just one of the all-time greats and the holder of a record 60 goals in what is the season, 39 games. So that's pretty crazy. Likely to not be beaten, and if so, buy his rookie cards and speculate on the guy that does that. Anyway, let's hang it up for today. Hope you enjoyed Dixie Dean, his epic cardboard. Give it a like, please. Subscribe. It really does mean a lot to me, and I'll make more videos of other players showing you cards to help you build out your collection. So thanks, everybody.